At the company anniversary dinner, Alice's ex-fiancé, who she's never been able to forget, was right beside her. Amidst the clinking glasses, they looked deeply into each other's eyes, lost in their own world. At that moment, it felt like everything else disappeared. I stood frozen at the entrance of the banquet hall. It's been 6 years, and Calvin has been consuming my world like a virus. This moment finally broke me. As I turned to leave, I knew I wasn't holding on to anything anymore. Soon after, I got a message from Alice. She said she might be out late with friends and told me not to wait up. So I didn't, and I never will again. Inside, next to Alice stood a guy, her ex-fiancé Calvin. They grew up together, and everyone in Alice's circle knew him. No idea what they were talking about. Calvin was gazing at Alice with affection, while Alice returned his look with a knowing smile. In that moment, Alice seemed wild. She usually kept her emotions in check. Even in times like this, she didn't show much. But now she was different, and it hurt to see. I stopped and watched for a while. After we got married, everyone said she never really got over Calvin. Even though he left her at the altar, making her the town's joke. She never blamed him. I never met the guy, but he affected me a lot. Alice never explained, and I didn't know how to ask. In the past few months, she traveled a lot for work. She said it was work. Sometimes we'd go 10 days or 2 weeks without talking. I'd call her, and she'd just text back busy. In those vague responses, I sensed Calvin was coming back into the picture. Yesterday, she returned from a trip but didn't come home. This morning, she returned just to change into an old shirt. The shirt was old but obviously expensive and well-crafted. She didn't need me to help her choose it, because under the collar, there was a C embroidered. Now, wearing a shirt he once gave her, standing with him, she was declaring her allegiance in front of everyone. Meanwhile, I became a joke to everyone watching. I didn't confront her. Better to walk away with dignity than face humiliation. I didn't expect to run into Calvin's buddy, Billy. Billy stood in front of me with a smug look, arms crossed. Alice is inside, and here you are leaving? Feeling insecure? Billy was Calvin's lackey, always yapping at me. I couldn't be bothered to reply, so I just walked around him. But Billy followed, taunting. See, Calvin and Alice are a perfect match. You're out of your league. Alice married you because Calvin got married. It didn't matter who she married, he sneered, looking me over. He then said, look at you. Alice tried to rebuild you into a Calvin clone. Even your cologne smells like his. If I were you, I'd already jump off a building to save myself from embarrassment. I clenched my shaky hands, trying to control my crumbling emotions. I casually replied, you couldn't be me because you can't have this face. You. Billy raised a hand to hit me, but I caught his wrist and slapped him instead. I said, instead of barking here, go get some surgery. Maybe when Alice is done with Calvin, she'll give you a shot, and walked away. Just a few steps further, Billy hurled a stack of photos at me. He scoffed. Alice has been with Calvin these past months. You're just a clown. The photos flew over my head, scattering on the floor. One drifted past my face, depicting Alice and Calvin kissing on a busy foreign street. Background lights dull in comparison. Everything around me dimmed, and my emotions crumbled completely. My eyes blurred for a moment, but it was brief. Outside, it was raining. The winter cold was harsh. The rain was freezing. At the entrance to the house, the security guard glanced at me but didn't open the door. After a few seconds, my daughter Karina's face appeared on the display. Dad, I said if you can't bring Mom back for my birthday, don't bother coming home. The cold rain poured down, biting like daggers. Karina stared at me, unfeeling. Why do I have a dad that nobody likes? If I could choose, I wouldn't pick you. This was the final straw. Completely crushed, I felt nothing else mattered. Through the drizzle, I told Karina, I'll make your wish come true. I left the divorce papers I had prepared in the guard's office. As I walked away, I heard Karina throwing a fit. Leave then. Grandpa and Grandma are coming to get me and take me to Mom. I didn't respond. She was only 5 but smart for her age, a little genius according to her teachers. She knew what she was saying and doing. In her eyes, I was worthless. Her mom was her role model. All that was left was the sound of the rain. Nobody really knows how hot my tears are or how much my heart aches. When I got to the hotel, the first thing I did was take a shower. I tossed out clothes similar to Calvin's style and washed away the scent that matched his cologne. After the shower, I stared at my brown hair in the mirror. For a while. Then I went to the salon and got it dyed black and cut short. By the time I left the salon, the rain had stopped. Among the bustling crowd, I wandered aimlessly down the busy streets. That night with Alice, it was filled with that same bustling energy. She was drunk and gazed at me so tenderly. She leaned in, pulled me close, and whispered in my ear, "Would you want to marry me?" I asked her, "Do you even know me?" She pinched my cheek, smiling. "Richard, how could I not know you?" I looked up into her eyes. "How long have you known me?" She answered without a second thought, 10 years. At that moment, my heart got a sudden jolt. My eyes welled up. No one could understand the joy of a secret kept for 10 years finally seeing the light of day. I thought she felt the same. Turns out, I was just a pawn to annoy someone else. Just another version of Calvin she had created. Everything she gave me wasn't because I liked it. It was because her beloved Calvin liked it. A car pulled up to the curb, its lights glowing on the street. Alice got out of the driver's seat and opened the passenger door. Calvin stepped out. He didn't pay attention to Alice but opened the back door instead. He pulled my daughter out from inside. Calvin kissed Karina's cheek hard. He smiled. "My daughter is so beautiful, just like her dad." Alice leaned against the car door, watching them nonchalantly. Her face wore a relaxed, happy smile, like a perfect little family. Soon, Alice's parents and grandparents arrived. They laughed and chatted their way into a fancy restaurant. Karina's face was full of contentment, as if she had found a dad she was happy with and the entire family liked. She probably never imagined her wish would come true so fast. I never imagined I'd witness this scene either. No one remembered me. Nobody cared where I was. Of course, if they cared about me, where would Calvin fit? So, naturally, I should just vanish. Maybe my emotions had crumbled into numbness. Because right then, I felt nothing. I didn't keep watching them. I just kept walking forward, letting my gaze fall on new faces and places. Then, my phone buzzed with a message. "Alice. Might be out late with friends. No need to wait for me." I looked at the message and laughed. I didn't reply. I didn't wait for her. And I won't be waiting anymore. Behind me, the city was bright and drowning in its excess. Ahead lay the blurry lights of countless homes. I walked to the end of the street where the cold wind blew, raised my hand to my face, feeling the chill. It hit me, I'd been crying for a while. Late at night, Alice came home. The room was dim, only a few lights from outside breaking in. "Richard," she called out, her voice tinged with drunkenness, but also anger. The room remained silent. Nobody answered. She frowned and stumbled to the bedroom. She tugged at her clothes but didn't bother with the switch. Just leaned against the door frame. Irritated, she said, "Karina said you didn't want to celebrate her birthday with her and just left. What's that supposed to mean? Mad at a kid? Is this how you act as a dad?" Still no response. Annoyed, she flipped the light switch. When the light came on, Alice looked at the bed with irritation. It was empty, sheets neat without a wrinkle. Obviously, he hadn't come home. Her anger had nowhere to go. Her frustration boiled over. Alice picked up her phone and made a call, but was met with an automated voice. "The number you've dialed is currently busy." Busy? Who could he be talking to so late? After a bit, she called again. Still busy. Her brows knitted, and her face fell. After the third and fourth call, hearing the same message, she realized she'd been blocked. In a rage, Alice threw her phone, called a servant over to question them. "Where's he? He left this and didn't come back." Alice took the papers handed to her. The words divorce agreement stared back at her. She laughed, an angry laugh. Probably because she was so furious, she tore the papers to shreds. "Leave." The servant backed away quickly, frightened. They'd never seen Alice so angry. Alice sunk onto the couch, massaging her temples. Divorce? In this world, he only had her and their daughter. Where could he possibly go? He couldn't. Once he's acted out enough, he'll come back. When the plane landed in G-City, my brother picked me up in a black car. In the car, I was silent, just stared out the window. Edward handed me a slice of strawberry millefeuille. Tasted sweet. Yet I cried as I ate it. Edward, did she bully you? No, we've just chosen different paths. Edward, should I teach her a lesson? No need, she was good to me once. Edward said through gritted teeth. If she hadn't saved you from that bastard and given you a life of ease and education, I wouldn't let her off. I sniffed. We're done now. Let's not talk about her anymore. I was the son the Smiths lost over 20 years ago. Traded by human traffickers, ending up with an old woman. I was 16 back then. The old woman saw how good-looking I was and started having bad intentions. First, she would just creepily touch me. Then she got bolder and tried to assault me. I begged her to let me go, crying. But she just kept undressing while licking her lips disgustingly. I bought you to have fun. Did you think I spent money just to take care of you, you money loser? I struggled as hard as I could, grabbing anything I could to throw at her. The woman got furious, gritting her teeth, took off her top, and started whipping me. Those nasty words, her twisted nature, and the hopeless pain, all magnified in my mind. Every time I think about it, I tremble. That's why when Alice showed up, it was like seeing an angel. Alice was 20 back then, so pure and beautiful. Initially, she wasn't going to take me with her, but my tears changed her mind. She looked down at me. I have a grandma who lives alone in the countryside. Want to keep her company? I'll support your studies until you graduate from college. I nodded. With the dawn breaking, I followed her out of that abyss, step by step. That was when she planted a seed in my heart. I ended up falling for her, the seed sprouted. I don't blame her for not loving me back. We were just a beautiful dream. When you wake up, it's time to part. After Richard left, Alice didn't seem much affected. She went out with Calvin and her friends like usual. But today it was rare. She didn't bring Calvin along. As soon as she entered the room, she started smoking. She didn't say a word. Everyone exchanged glances, ready to tease. That's when Alice got a message on her phone. She reached for it immediately. Normally, she hated interruptions, always kept her phone silent. But now it was on loud and she checked the message eagerly. Finally, her friends began teasing. What's got into Alice lately? Who knows? She's been glued to her phone, like she's waiting for someone's message. Ever since Calvin came back, she seems lost. It was just an ad. Alice tossed the phone back on the table, clearly irritated. She poured herself a drink, downed it in one gulp. A friend elbowed her. It's just 'cause Calvin's not here today, and you're already so worked up? Alice gave a sideways glance, staying quiet. Heard you're leaving your husband to marry Calvin? TSK, you're the romantic one among us. Alice set her glass on the table. Annoyed, she replied. Who said I'm getting divorced? Surprised, a friend asked. Not thinking about divorce. What's up with you and Calvin then? Alice, just fooling around. Everyone laughed. I knew none of us here are hopeless romantics. 2 months passed, and Richard still hadn't come home. Just missing one person, but it felt so empty to Alice. Even with all the servants around, she still had her 3 meals a day. But every morning, she glanced at the dressing area, where he used to lay out her clothes for the next day. His presence in the house had completely faded. It was like he'd never been a part of her life. Alice looked at the huge wedding photo on the wall, feeling suffocated. Then there was a noise outside. Her heart skipped. She looked toward the door. Calvin walked in, smiling like always. But things had changed, and it wasn't the same. Alice, why are you here? Calvin, Aunt asked me to go back to the old house with you for Grandma's birthday. Alice suddenly remembered. Today was her grandma's birthday. Calvin, unable to hide his excitement. Where's my daughter, Karina? As he spoke, he headed upstairs, calling out, Karina? Whenever Alice's daughter was born, Calvin always joked she was his daughter. Alice never denied it. But today, hearing him say it, it really grated on her nerves. She snapped, "She's at the old house, not here." Calvin froze on the steps. He stayed quiet for a long time before coming back down. In a hurt tone, he asked, "Alice, are you upset with me?" Alice frowned. "No." With that, she turned around. "You go to the old house first. Tell Grandma, I have something urgent at work. I'll be there later." In the study, Alice used software to call Richard. As she called, she fished out a cigarette from the pack. Before she could light it, the call connected. She held the cigarette, intently listening to his voice. A strange happiness spread from her ear to her whole body, like a gentle stream soothing her heart. Alice's lips curled a bit. "Richard." At that moment, I was in my office, typing code. I studied computer science, and luckily, my family's business is tech-based. So I joined the company. Hearing Alice's voice felt like it was from a different lifetime. "Richard, it's Grandma's birthday today. I don't want to make a scene. Tell me where you are. I'll come get you." I paused for a moment and asked, "Alice, did you sign the divorce papers?" Alice's voice floated. "What?" "Find a time to get the divorce certificate." Alice's smile disappeared instantly. She crushed the unlit cigarette with her fingers. When she spoke again, her voice was cold. "Do you really want a divorce?" "Yes." Alice crushed the cigarette. "Why?" She didn't even know why I wanted a divorce. I looked out at the setting sun. For 2 months, Billy had been sending me daily photos of Alice and Calvin together in my email. Alice stood tall and graceful, clean and handsome. Calvin always wore clothes matching her colors. Both had a minimalistic style. A beautiful couple, easy on the eyes. I often remembered our time together. She didn't like me without makeup, didn't like my black hair, didn't like me wearing generic clothes. Only now I understood. With a polished look and high-end clothes, I looked most like Calvin. 16 years of loving turned out to be just a joke. Even now, deciding to leave still suffocates me with sadness. But at least I realized it before it was too late. People have times when they're stubborn. Once you get past it, everything starts to feel pointless. As the sun set, the office became dim. In the glass reflection, I saw my black hair and my favorite outfit, looking all fresh and new. Growing up, people always said I was good looking. Even without makeup, people would turn to look at me on the street. Yet in front of Alice, I never felt confident. She was always the one in control in the relationship. But I was done being the one beneath. After a while, I calmly said, "Being with you is just pointless. If I'm pointless to be with, who isn't?" She asked, "Not your concern." Alice laughed out of anger. "Richard, are you really going to do this?" I chuckled too. "Alice, do you think I'm making a fuss over you?" That made Alice go silent. For so many years, he was always quietly there, giving silently. She never really paid attention to him or understood his feelings. For a moment, Alice felt guilty. Her tone softened. "You don't just leave without saying a word. Give me a chance to explain." My voice was still calm. "You married me without telling me the reason. So when I leave you, you don't need to know why." That bit of guilt she had was swept away by her frustration with Richard. "You should know I don't take being dumped lightly," she shot back. I scoffed. "When Calvin dumped you, you didn't ask questions. What, do you think I'm easy to bully?" "Alice, if you won't divorce, I'll file for it. My lawyer will reach out tomorrow." "What about the kid? Don't you care about her?" She struck a nerve. But Karina wasn't my weakness anymore. I chuckled lightly. "Karina is your daughter. She has your blood and will become another you. I'm not a fan." With that, I hung up. It was an app call, so I couldn't block her, but it didn't matter. Truly letting go isn't about blocking someone. My fiancé heard the call end. Alice took off her headset, lit a cigarette, and when the phone suddenly rang in the quiet room, she glanced at the caller ID. It was Calvin. She blew out a cloud of smoke and ignored it. Her reflection on the window showed her gloomy face. Richard's words kept ringing in her head in the smoky room, annoying her to no end. She stormed out to the old house. She never favored men, and Richard was no exception. The house was lively when Alice arrived. Calvin was playing joyfully with her daughter. Her parents and grandparents wore kind, friendly smiles. Calvin always charmed people and was favored by elders since childhood. Even now, Alice's parents and grandparents liked him a lot. He and Alice came from equally matched backgrounds. Even though Calvin was divorced, he was still seen as a good match by the elders. Nobody cared where Richard was. Even his own daughter didn't ask, "Where's Dad?" "Karina is your daughter. She has your blood and will become another you." "I'm not a fan." Richard's words echoed in her ears again. Her brewing anger suddenly erupted. Alice called sharply, "Karina, come here." Karina, giggling in Calvin's arms, didn't move. "Mom, come over here. Calvin, Dad wants to tell you a secret." Alice marched over with a cold face and pulled Karina out of Calvin's arms. Calvin quickly stood up. "Alice, don't hurt my daughter." Alice looked at him coldly. "When did she become your daughter?" She said icily to Karina next. "Don't you know who your dad is? Teachers say you're a genius, but you're really not." Calvin was stunned. Recently, Alice had become distant, clearly fed up with him. She didn't call him for meals or fun with friends or respond to his calls or messages. He felt devalued by always chasing after her, but he couldn't stop himself from wanting to see her. It was Alice's grandmother's birthday, a good reason to see her, but her attitude caught him off guard. Calvin felt anger rising, expecting her to appease him, but she didn't try. Everyone thought she'd leave Richard and marry him if he came back around. Even he believed that. When her daughter was born, he joked it would be his daughter eventually. Alice always laughed it off. Now, she openly called him out in front of the family, implying she wouldn't marry him, and that Karina's dad was only Richard. Calvin's heart sank as his smile faded. Getting up from the sofa, he asked, "Alice, what do you mean?" Alice met his gaze calmly. "Just reminding you not to cross the line. I am married." The elders exchanged puzzled looks. Alice's granddad tapped his cane disapprovingly. "Alice." But she ignored him, staring back at Calvin. "We're only friends." Calvin stepped back. "Alice, you're such a jerk." Compared to Calvin's anger, Alice stayed calm. She didn't even care, just returning the favor. Calvin trembled. So she hadn't forgotten his past runaway act, as rumors said. Her flirting wasn't due to lingering feelings. It was just to make him taste what it's like to be abandoned and ridiculed. Calvin suddenly laughed. How could he forget? She was never the forgiving type. Alice was always the one who sought revenge without holding back. Calvin clenched his hand, looking at Alice coldly. "Alice, you still do things without considering others' feelings. If Richard can stay with you, it just proves he's pathetic." With that, Calvin walked away. Alice's grandpa was so furious, he almost ended up in the hospital. Her dad grabbed a whip and lashed at Alice. But Alice didn't make a sound the whole time. Once she was covered in welts, and the elders were satisfied, they stopped. Then she quietly said, "I won't get a divorce." Later that night, I was asleep. The phone rang. I groggily picked up. It was silent for a while before a voice spoke. "This is Calvin." My eyes opened, thoughts becoming clear. "What's up?" "I heard you're divorcing Alice because of me. If I wanted to be with Alice, I wouldn't have bailed on her wedding, and you wouldn't exist. So, don't worry, Mr. Calvin. There's nothing between Alice and me." "Sure. She liked me a lot and was a mess when I ditched her, drinking all day. Right before her wedding, she asked if I really didn't want her. But that was years ago. We're different now. We're just friends." It was surprising how well Calvin knew about me and Alice. It was honestly laughable. His words seemed conciliatory but were really a challenge. Anyone who hangs with Billy couldn't be good news. I chuckled, not letting him off easy. "Mr. Calvin, is that being a hypocrite? What, couldn't have Billy do your dirty work this time, so you're here to attack me personally? Did Alice dump you so now you're scrambling?" "I've known Alice for 16 years. I know a bit about her. She's not the type to hold long-term affection. Maybe she did like Calvin a lot before, but not sure about now. It seems more like unresolved desires. Calvin isn't really worth becoming a town joke for." She won't choose to divorce me. If she did, the divorce papers would be in my hands by now. Calvin paused for a long time, then sneered. Got a sharp tongue. Alice said you were gentle and weak, but you're just faking it. No need to fake, just showing it to you, that's all. And if you're so tough, then don't come back ever. I was still smiling. Whether I come back or not, that's none of your business. With that, I hung up. It was late and quiet, but I couldn't fall back asleep. Moonlight scattered into the room. Memories drifted through my mind. It felt like I was back in the year I went with Alice to her grandmother's. Her grandma adored me, always bought plenty of things for me. She could tell when I was feeling down and would cheer me up. Nobody had ever treated me like that. I often remember her comforting, gentle ways. Thinking about it always wets my eyes. But when I was 20, Grandma passed away. Even when she was going, she held my hand. Tearfully she said, "Richard, I can't take care of you anymore. You've got to look after yourself. I worry most about you." It was my first taste of being someone's concern. The loss devastated me, but there was no fighting it. When she passed, she left everything in order. Her house was left to me. She said, even if she wasn't around, it'd always be my home. I lived there alone, peacefully. I never thought I'd see Alice again. I assumed our paths wouldn't cross. After all, we were worlds apart. A fairy tale wasn't happening to me. Then, during winter break in my junior year while mourning Grandma, I met Alice. The day was bleak. As I got to the cemetery, it started to snow heavily. Alice stood for a long time at Grandma's grave. She was in a terrible mood. I didn't understand her emotions then. Turns out that was the year Calvin ran out on her. I'd misunderstood, thinking it was a continuation of our story. She bought me things like Grandma did. She'd even take me to get my hair styled. With us, it was like we were together, but not really. Felt like love, but not quite. That intangible feeling rotted me yet healed me. Sadness, sorrow, pain, hope, everything she gave me, I drowned in it. So when she asked if I'd marry her, I agreed. She didn't know. I never planned on a lifelong commitment. Probably never really thought about the end. So the ending didn't break my heart too badly. As memories drifted away, all I was left with was a faint wistfulness. Nothing more. When Richard's lawyer reached out to Alice, Alice was pretty shocked. Linda, the top lawyer in City G, came personally to her just for a small divorce case. But Alice wasn't easy to deal with either. Her own lawyer was all-star material too. Alice handed everything over to her lawyer and instructed, "Drag it out as long as you can. I'm not really in a rush." L Corporation's lawyer was surprised. It was the first time someone had told them not to worry about efficiency. After Linda left, Alice called her assistant, "Find out where Richard is. It's unusual for him to get Linda involved." Alice lit a cigarette, but barely took a couple of puffs before it was put out. He didn't like smoking. Linda didn't smoke either. Outside the office's floor-to-ceiling window, the city was a riot of lights and sounds, full of extravagance. He didn't like luxury and despised party scenes. And Linda, despite her wealthy background, kept a low profile and never frequented entertainment venues. Linda was clean living, stayed away from men, and yet respected them. Her stunning, almost divine looks made her exactly Richard's type. The more she thought about it, the more she felt a burning sensation in her chest. She had never felt so restless, trying to grasp something but unable to catch hold of anything. Over a month passed, and the assistant tried many ways but still couldn't find Richard. Even the top people Alice hired couldn't trace any of Richard's tracks. For the first time, Alice felt frustrated. She always thought she could find him if she wanted to. Never expected to come up empty-handed. During that month, there was New Year's Eve and the Lantern Festival, but not a word from him, no call. He didn't even send a greeting to Karina during the holidays. Outside, snow was falling heavily, and the wind howled. Inside, it was warm but felt cold and lonely. Alice looked around the house. She bought everything in it herself. Even the wedding photos were taken according to her taste. There was nothing in the house that belonged to Richard. No trace of his presence anywhere. It hit her now. He really intended to leave her. She never thought he would. thought he'd regret it, come back to her. But now, she knew she couldn't wait any longer. Alice picked up her phone, glanced at the date, grabbed the car keys and headed out the door. February 17th was her grandmother's anniversary. I deliberately went a day later to avoid running into Alice's family. Snowflakes were falling gently again, just like the year Grandma passed, not as cold. I stood in front of Grandma's tombstone for a long, long time, remembered what she said before she left. Richard, don't harbor any illusions about Alice. She's not right for you, understand? She may have saved you, but don't idolize her. She's just an ordinary person with many flaws. She won't care about others or their feelings. She's not all that great, saving you probably used up all the good in her. Richard, don't dive into the sea of suffering. The cold wind messed up my hair, and snow fell on my face, chilling it. Like a child who made a mistake, crying to Grandma, I'm sorry, Grandma. I didn't listen. She wasn't my sea of suffering. She was my belief at the time. Though the hardships outweighed the joys, I never regretted experiencing it with her. I didn't know how long I stood there. When I finally looked up, it was already dark. The snow had stopped. Above, the full moon was bright like a big light. I turned and left, walking through the quiet night, reflecting on my past, my future. Thankfully, things weren't so bad. I had the chance to start over. No idea how long I walked. When I looked up, I was at Grandma's old house, a place I had lived in for many years. It looked the same as before, unchanged. Someone kept it clean and well maintained. Around me was silence, pierced only by the cold wind. I typed in the code. It hadn't changed. The door opened. Inside, Alice had been waiting, standing just behind the door. Hearing the noise, my heart raced. She shook her head, wondering why she was acting like a nervous teenager. I didn't expect to see Alice right there when I opened the door. Startled, I turned to run without a second thought. But just as I was turning, Alice grabbed me, pulled me inside, and shut the door behind us. Gritting her teeth, Alice said, "Finally found you. Let go." I snapped, but she didn't let go. Instead, she cupped my chin and kissed me hard. Alice always had that someone else in her heart. Yet sometimes she acted obsessed with me, especially in moments like this, her kisses wild. If it were before, I might have lost my mind over it. Now it just sickened me. In a moment of anger, I slapped her hard across the face. I used all my strength, hands stinging, leaving a red handprint on her cheek. Alice had never been hit by anyone before, especially not across the face. Her gaze sunk as she looked at me. My eyes burned, tears streaming down unexpectedly. I turned to leave, reaching for the door. Alice pressed it shut. "You've hit me already. Still want to leave?" I stood with my back to her, got my emotions in check. All my feelings, my belief was once centered around her. But in the end, it was ridiculous, laughably absurd. "Alice," I said, "I told you I wouldn't regret the divorce." Looking at the top of his head, Alice asked anyway, "Is it because of Calvin?" "No," I replied irritably. "Calvin, no matter what, was just an outsider. I had realized clearly she would never love me, never care about me. A marriage like that, it really meant nothing. Once, I thought all I needed to do was love her. Now, I realize I was overestimating myself. Who loves without expecting anything in return? Anyway, life is short, yet it seems long too. If you keep draining yourself, you turn into someone everyone despises. A lunatic." Alice grabbed my wrist, stopping me from leaving. "I did like him once, but that was in the past. There's nothing between us now." I shook her hand off, annoyed. "Nothing? So what? When you were hanging out with him for months, did you ever think of me? When you flirted with him in public, did I cross your mind? After I left, did you think of me while you two paraded around everywhere? You've had the best of both worlds, and now you say there's nothing? Alice, I'm not your lapdog you can call and dismiss at will. I've owed you a debt of gratitude, and I always hoped you wouldn't become someone who disgusts me. Yet here we are." Alice looked down at me, silent for a while. Her face darkened. I knew she was pissed off. Who wouldn't be upset if someone pointed out their ugliest side so ruthlessly? but no one cared about her feelings. I chuckled, "Alice, I don't want us to part ways as enemies. Get the divorce done quickly so we won't have to meet again." Alice sneered, "Can't be swayed." "Huh? Richard, are you gonna keep acting out?" Her trying to sweet-talk me was a joke. "Alice, you don't honestly think I'm begging you for pity, do you?" With that, I walked away. Didn't even glance back at her. The yard went silent again. Only the howling cold wind wrapped around my ears. Bone-chilling cold. Alice stood there for a long time, long enough that the wind numbed her completely. She'd always been proud, never bowed to a man. When Calvin bailed on their wedding, she was upset but didn't fall apart. She never truly bowed her head. A few text messages sent without a care could leave Calvin distressed. So when she got married, he reached out. Hearing his voice felt like victory to her. For a long time after that, Calvin would text her now and then. The man who once looked down on her was now pathetic, thinking she was waiting for him like a dog. When her daughter was born, Calvin claimed she was his child. She never challenged that. Letting him drown in his fantasy only to shatter it later was the sweetest revenge. See, she never had deep feelings for Calvin. His ditching her on their wedding day left her humiliated, the city's laughingstock. When had Alice ever been insulted like that? Of course, she'd remember it. So when everyone thought she was pining for Calvin and married Richard to spite him, she kept silent. Enough rumors and people took them as truths. Even Calvin believed them. So Calvin got divorced. He returned the first thing after the divorce. She didn't disappoint him. At the company anniversary dinner, she wore a shirt he once gifted her, embroidered with a C at the collar. That day, Calvin, once the noble prince, was now throwing himself at her without a shred of dignity. He assumed she'd divorce Richard and marry him. A laughable assumption. Did he really think Alice was that naive? She knew Richard saw it all that day. But she didn't care about his feelings. He'd sort himself out eventually. Next time she saw him, he still appeared enamored. Thus, when he mentioned divorce, she brushed it off. She kept going out publicly with Calvin, making it seem like she absolutely needed him. Just when Calvin believed she'd divorce for him, she went cold. No more messages, no more meeting up. At first, he'd try to maintain his pride. Then, he lost it entirely, showing up at her marital home, shamelessly celebrating birthdays at her grandma's place. This was exactly what she wanted, to see someone who once walked all over her reduced to a groveling nobody. Once everything settled, she realized her husband had vanished. He hadn't come back as she expected. Even when she searched for him, he refused to return home. At this moment, she genuinely felt that Richard was successful in removing himself from her life for good. His words, sharp and piercing, hit her at her core. Remarkably, he knew everything about her. He understood her so well. That's why he didn't want her. Far from her grandma's old house, snow began to fall again. Life's unpredictable. Clear skies one moment, snowy the next. Despite the biting wind, I didn't feel the cold while I walked. People along the road moved in small groups. Some were soaking wet, others carried their own umbrellas, and some shared theirs. Some were somber, some indifferent, and others laughing. Every time I faced brutal weather, I wished Alice would come over with an umbrella, shield me from the storm, sharing vows of love. But I always chuckled at myself. She managed it once. Wanting her to hold it for life was foolish. Someone like her wouldn't muse over keeping a man dry. I paused, closing my eyes. Snowflakes hit my face, icy and wet. After a while, I wiped them off and stepped into a store to buy an umbrella. Holding it up for myself wasn't so hard after all. 3 days later, leaving work, I saw Karina at the office entrance. She's only 5 but carries herself like an adult. She awkwardly tilted her head. That unwilling to bow posture. A perfect match with her mother. Genes are strong. No matter how much I teach her, I can't overcome that indifferent gene. She's my child, and no father wouldn't love their child. I gave her all my love and all my devotion. But sadly, not every child loves their dad. Someone else gave her what she wanted, and she believed them, treating me with coldness and dislike. I tried not to hold it against her, After all, she's just a kid. But on her birthday, she said something unforgivable. After I left, she celebrated with the person she thought was closest. Calvin was holding her, and she couldn't even remember her real dad. Everyone saw me as a joke, while she and her real father went along without a care. I looked down at her face turned to the side. In a calm voice, I said, "You're not wrong. It's me. I shouldn't have had you. Then your dad wouldn't be me." She looked at me, clearly unsure and uneasy. I didn't bend down to comfort her. I just continued, "Now you can choose your dad. Whoever you think deserves to be your dad. Just tell your mom." "Did your mom make you come here? If so, you probably wouldn't even think of me as your dad, would you? Honestly, having a daughter like you is disappointing. Go tell Alice it doesn't matter." I started to walk away, but after 2 steps, Karina yelled frantically, "Dad, it wasn't Mom who made me come. I wanted to." Her voice had a childlike sadness and vulnerability. I hadn't seen her like this in a long time. My heart ached, but I didn't look back. She could still be happy without me. I kept walking forward. Ahead, there was a black car parked on the side of the road. I didn't have to look to know Alice was inside. She wouldn't leave a 5-year-old by herself. Seeing me leave without turning back, Alice lost her composure and got out of the car. She angrily grabbed my arm. "Richard, Karina is only 5. How can you leave her like that?" I shook off her hand and looked at her coldly. "You know she's only 5? Then why let others come between us? Why does everyone talk badly about her dad in front of her? And you set the example. What right do you have to blame me? Isn't this the ending you all wanted?" When anger peaks, there's a strange calmness. I looked at Alice and suddenly laughed. "I get your game. You want to use me to get back at Calvin. Not divorcing me is your best weapon against him. Alice, you refuse to give an inch. No wonder Calvin doesn't want you." Richard's words cut like knives. Alice struggled to hold back her emotions. She couldn't seem as untouchable and proud as before. At this moment, she'd rather hold her temper, hoping he'd speak kindly, instead of these confrontational, hurtful words. He knew she wasn't that obsessed with Calvin. "Richard, is that all you think of me? I admit I wanted revenge against Calvin, but he's not worth begging you to come back. You've always been my only man. The photos of me and Calvin were taken on purpose by someone else." How ridiculous. I actually laughed. "So I'm your only one? That's why you ignored and disrespected me? Let your family bully me and turn my daughter against me? I'm your only one, so you wore his monogrammed shirt, made me a laughingstock in public? I'm your only one, yet you brought Calvin and your whole family to give Karina a birthday. Didn't see anything wrong? Alice, I've nothing more to say. Even if I'm your only one, it didn't stop you from hurting me. Talking about these things, I thought I'd be indifferent. Turns out my heart still stings. I've suffered too much, and nobody knows, because those who hurt me never think they're wrong. Just like Alice now. She believes coming to me again and again is already a favor, that I should cheerfully go back home with her. She's always been that proud." Alice looked at Richard standing before her. He seemed both the same and completely different. "Richard," she said, lost. "I don't want to make excuses. I messed up. I was wrong. Can you give me another chance?" Probably never having said such soft words, Alice seemed awkward. She held my hand tight. "I really know I was wrong. I shouldn't have treated you that way. Is that it for our years together?" I tried to pull my hand away, but she wouldn't let go. I was ready to argue. Then a fist suddenly crashed into Alice's face. She fell back several steps. After a moment, she steadied herself. Before she could see who hit her, Edward punched again. Alice was knocked to the ground. Edward didn't hold back. Her mouth was bleeding, struggling to get up. Edward moved to hit Alice again. A little figure blocked him. It all happened so fast. As I realized and rushed to stop Edward, his fist stopped just inches from Karina. He was furious, veins popping, and stood up straight. "You brat, where were you when your dad was getting hit? You're quick to defend this worthless mom of yours. Guess you inherited nothing good. Your dad's right not to want you." Karina's eyes turned red. "Who says my dad doesn't want me?" "Edward, Clearly, your other dad is at home. Go find him with this mother of yours. Karina, mature for her age, was still just a child. Edward's words brought her to tears. She looked at me all pitiful, like she hoped I'd be on her side. But I wasn't. She had to realize that her actions and words have consequences. Instead of looking at Karina, I glanced at Alice on the ground. My intention to divorce was firm. I hoped she'd cooperate with the lawyer to get it done. I said my piece and was about to leave with Edward. From behind us, Alice's mocking laughter echoed. No wonder you don't want me anymore. You found someone new. Richard, your love is cheap. I stopped but didn't look at her. Just as I was about to say something, Edward cut in. Alice, don't make me hit you again. No matter how cheap his love is, it's not for you. With that, Edward pulled me away quickly. He seemed angrier than me, and it was the first time someone stood up for me. And that person happened to be my brother. It warmed my heart for no reason. I smiled and said, thanks, bro. Edward replied, no need to thank me. I'm always your backup. You've got the whole company behind you. No one will dare bully you again. Alice struggled to get up, wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth, and watched Richard and Edward leave. Her eyes filled with anger, almost consuming her. She couldn't calm down. This uncontrolled emotion was driving her insane. Mom, are you okay? Karina looked at her coldly. Useless, couldn't even keep Dad. Karina lowered her head. What are you going to do? Alice replied, I don't want a divorce, but what can I do? Karina said, you don't deserve my dad. He's not happy with you. Just end it. There was a deeper meaning behind her words. Alice looked at Karina. Did you push your dad away on purpose? Karina didn't respond, just got into the car by herself. As she climbed in, tears fell from her young face. She didn't remember how many times she'd woken up in the middle of the night to find her father silently crying. Since she'd become aware, she'd rarely seen him truly happy. His smiles often seemed resigned to his fate. He loved her, but he wasn't happy. So she became that last straw for the camel. She wanted her dad to live for himself, not for her or her mom. When they were set to announce my identity, a big party was planned in G-City, inviting a lot of big names. No matter what, Alice had saved me once. Our family needed to thank her for that. So I asked Edward to invite Calvin and Billy. As they arrived at the hotel, I got out of the car. Billy saw me and, as usual, barked at me. Yo, isn't it Richard? Spruced up. Huh? But no matter what, you can't change your loser fate. Can't believe I'd run into you here. Who's your new sugar daddy now? That outfit's a limited edition. Which lady was starving enough for you? Billy laughed hard, elbowing Calvin. Calvin, see him trying to look like a princess? Isn't that something? Calvin rolled his eyes disdainfully. Why waste words on someone who's been my stand-in for so long? Looking at me, Calvin said, pardon my frankness, using youth and looks to snag women isn't a long-term plan. Guys should know their worth. Rich women don't care about you. You don't hold any value. I smiled, flicking my hair. Thanks for thinking I still look young. Calvin sneered, shameless. Still smiling, I replied, Mr. Calvin, you're right. Guys should indeed maintain their dignity. I'd like you both to see something, and hope you'll live better after. With that, I snapped my fingers. The huge screen above the hotel and all the ad displays on the street changed their images. The screens showed Calvin and Billy's wild years. The footage of their parties with women and men was scandalous, almost like something out of an adult film. But that's not the worst part. What was truly chilling was how they would force people to undergo plastic surgery if they weren't attractive enough. They just laughed off broken or ruined lives. Many lost their lives, and their rich families had it swept under the rug. If the families of their victims didn't settle, they beat them into submission. They'd stomp on victims' relatives' heads, laughing wickedly. As the video played, Calvin and Billy's faces went from disdain to panic. Calvin reacted first, lunging at me, but before he could touch me, Edward kicked him away. Billy looked at Calvin on the ground, cursed at me. Richard, you piece of trash, you just wait. Edward, are you blind, standing up for this man? Edward raised his hand. His bodyguards moved in, sealing Billy's and Calvin's mouths with tape. You think you can insult our family's eldest son? Calvin and Billy looked terrified, like they were in a horror movie, but they'd lost their chance to speak. A crowd had gathered, some recording, some watching the drama. In no time, this became a hot topic. What they'd done was so outrageous, it sparked public outrage. Many began throwing trash at them. I stood aside, watching indifferently as karma caught up with them. It wasn't long before the police took Calvin and Billy away. L Group and Y Group were thrown into the spotlight because of this. Those two big families were bound to be investigated. Few companies can withstand a thorough investigation, especially ones as corrupt as those. Besides, my family won't give them a chance to bounce back. The ending for Alice and Calvin's families is destined to be a mess. My world continues as usual. The chaos caused by Calvin and Billy was just a joke to entertain me, just like how they once saw me as a joke. No one's bothered by their embarrassment, just laughing at it. Amidst the fading lights, I saw Alice. She wore a black business suit, as neat and sharp as ever. But I'm no longer the same me. Even though it's only been a few months. Feels like a century has passed. She approached, keeping some distance, quietly staring at me. Maybe she's surprised by the new me and doesn't know what to say. After a while, she lowered her eyes dejectedly. You found your family? I'm happy for you. I looked at her, frankly, calmly. Alice, thank you for saving me from the abyss all those years ago. Even though things are broken now, I still hope you're well. Suddenly, Alice felt a twinge in her heart. She couldn't quite describe what she was feeling at that moment. Stifling, painful, unforgettable. People always grasp how deep love is through the pain of parting. But real separation leaves no room for a reunion. She had never felt this way before. But just as she realized it, she had to lose him. Richard. There was a slight tremble in her voice. I know I was a jerk before, ignoring your feelings. I've never truly loved anyone. Everyone thought I loved Calvin. But actually, I cut her off. You don't love anyone, you only love yourself. Alice froze, unable to refute. Can't you give me another chance? I promise I'll change. I shook my head. No need, Alice. Richard, let's end this on a good note. Alice, don't make me disgust you further. I turned to leave. She suddenly grabbed my wrist, pulling me into a tight hug. Her grip was so strong, I couldn't move. Before I could speak, she whispered in my ear, I've loved you since I saved you. You planted a seed in my heart back then. It just took too long to grow. From now on, a disgusting person like me, won't bother you anymore. No need for a lawsuit, I'll go with you to get the divorce papers. On the day Alice and I got the divorce papers, all the elders showed up to apologize to me. They all hoped I wouldn't divorce Alice. Alice's mom took my hand and talked with me upstairs for a while. She took out their family heirloom for me. Richard, rest assured, if Alice dares pull any crap again, I'll make sure she regrets it. Ever since you left, Karina's been downcast. For the kid's sake, won't you give her another chance? Looking at that invaluable heirloom, I didn't take it. It's only for their son-in-law. But before, she wouldn't give it to me. Now she's sweet-talking and offering me a bracelet. All because my identity as the Smith son in G-City is more prestigious than Calvin's. Turns out, power really does change people. I smiled a bit, politely declined. Auntie, leave this for a more suitable son-in-law. I stood up and went downstairs. Alice stood at the stairway, looking up at me intently. Her hands quietly clenched, her eyes full of hope. Our eyes met. My nose stung for a moment. Maybe she loves me, but we've never really been in love. I lowered my eyes, step by step, walking to her. Let's go. Where? Get the divorce papers. After the divorce, Alice would always secretly keep an eye on Richard from a distance. She often wondered if that morning she hadn't worn the shirt with a C on it, if she'd taken Richard to that party, if Karina's birthday during dinner, she'd remembered him. Would their story have ended so abruptly? But life's a one-way ticket. No turning back. Everything with him was buried in that day's light rain. Richard never remarried nor dated. He shone in his career field, met many new people. His life became colorful. but still no woman by his side. Her heart would often skip a beat. Maybe he still loves her. But just as soon as she thought that, it seemed ridiculous. He stayed single, never looked back at her. She could only imagine how low she ranked in his heart. Yet Alice was still happy. She was his only woman. But on a Valentine's Day 3 years later, Richard came out finally with a woman by his side. And that woman was Linda. Alice sat in her car, staring at them intently, her hands tightly gripping the steering wheel, fingers turning white. They went to a bustling snack street. Amidst the earthly delights, they chatted, exchanged glances. Alice squeezed through the crowd, watching Richard and Linda ahead. His smile was so bright and easygoing, his gaze so pure, that used to belong to her once upon a time. In the clamor, his face grew large in her vision. Her heart began to ache. It was the tearing away of him completely from her world. That's what truly loving someone feels like. Even if it's heartbreak, you dare not disturb them for even a second. She followed them like a thief the entire way. They didn't even know she was there. Alice stopped walking. The crowd soon swallowed Richard's silhouette. She couldn't see him anymore. He'd started a new life, while she was still stuck in the mud of the past. Ahead was an ordinary life's romance. She could only turn around, disappearing into the endless glow of lights behind her.